All right, and good afternoon and welcome back to the public hearing and public meeting of Tuesday, July 30th of the Landmarks Preservation Commission. We are resuming this afternoon with public hearing item number six. And this meeting is being held in our hearing room at 1 Center Street on the 9th floor, also being held via Zoom and live streamed on our YouTube channel for anyone who would like to watch the proceedings. And with that, I will turn it over to our Director of Preservation, Corey Harala, to take us through the afternoon items.
Thank you, Sarah. As noted, we'll start up with public hearing item number 5, LPC 24-06569, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, block 1917, lot 18, 229 Waverly Avenue in the Clinton Hill Historic District. This is a vacant lot, and the application is to construct a new building.
While the applicants get settled, I will note for the record that Commissioner Goldblum is recused on this item.
Good afternoon. I'm John Field, Building Studio Architects, with my client Avi from AB Construction as owner developer. This project is a single family dwelling on an unimproved vacant parcel at 229 Waverly Avenue in the Clinton Hill Historic District. I have taken the typology of the carriage house in consideration in developing the design for this building with facade heights, strong cornice, and datum in alignment with our historic buildings to the south. The site is on the east side of Waverly on a 100-foot deep lot. The street was developed primarily as a service street with stables, carriage houses, and service buildings for the mansions along Clinton and Washington Avenues. Many of these houses survive, and we work with the neighborhood group to adjust the project and its design. Our site is flanked to the north by one-story garages of no architectural interest. To the south of our site, we have the Lowell Palmer Beaux-Arts style carriage houses from 1899. These have limestone ornamentation, light buff yellow iron spot brick, copper detailing, and sloped mansard slate roof with pronounced pediment tip dormers. Continuing on the block to the south, at 241 is a Neo-Georgian 3-car garage and chauffeur's quarters from 1916. This is the Wallace T. Jones carriage house and also presents a sloped slate mansard roof and copper detailing with a red brick exterior. The development of the block shows the progression from the stable carriage street to larger buildings and heights that exist now. Nothing has ever been built on this site. We show the proposed structure in context with the existing densities on our 1950 Sanborn map. Our building only extends 60 feet, leaving a 40-foot rear yard on our 100-foot deep lot. Elevations on the street front show the irregular corrugated nature of the block. So we are proposing a single-family residence with a carriage house typology. The proposed dwelling is 3 stories at the street front. The 4-story portion is set back and not visible from sight lines directly across the street. The front facade has a limestone base with a recessed arched wooden entry. This has deliberate scale to recall the carriage house typology on our narrow site. The limestone frame sets off the 2nd story in deep red iron spot brick with black clad 2/2 windows and a limestone cornice and copper trim flashing detailing above. Our 3rd floor is behind a sloped mansard with a flat north light window set on neo-slate roofing, maintaining a detail and alignment in deference to our neighboring historic structures. The 4th floor is set back behind a terrace concealed by the mansard and is clad with standing seam gray metal siding. At the rear of the building, we again have red iron spot brick framing a double height glazed living room, double hung 2/2 windows on the 3rd floor, and at the 4th floor, the standing seam sheathing and ribbon casement window reduces the visual mass of the structure. Our building at the rear is 2 stories higher than the rear extension of our neighbors, but does not go back as far on the lot. Sightlines have been considered from across the street in locating the roof features, including the fence, ladder handrails, and required flue extensions of our neighbors to minimize visibility. These are minimally visible across only secondary facades. While our flue vents shown here consider a worst-case scenario, we now note that only the second and fourth from the front neighboring flues are active. This will reduce the impact of the chimney extensions shown. The second flue is low-temperature gas, therefore height is reduced. The rearmost flue is shown for solid wood fuel as medium temperature and extended to code minimum height. Our rendered views from the south show this visibility. This is a view from the street. Here we have a before on the left and a proposed, go back one, sorry. A proposed on the right. From the north, the distant view shows the mass of the building in alignment at the street. Go again. With its neighbors and the maximum impact in winter. We are proposing common brick for the exposed sidewall with select black framed lot line windows. Other visibility is at the rear from Willoughby Avenue. This is a heavily treed interior of varied and irregular composition. From the west, our neighboring Palmer Carriage House has varied fenestration, larger strip windows and glazed openings at 237 and smaller, more original openings at 239. To the east, we have the row house buildings along Washington. These are regularized facades and the fenestration. Proximate to our site, the row houses have extensions on deeper through block lots. And to the north, at the corner, a set of row houses on 100-foot deep lots along Willoughby have bay windows at the first floor. The larger apartment buildings that back up to our site also have varied fenestration. Through our slot from Willoughby, the visibility in areas of impact are heavily treed and obscured. The rear facade echoes the brick inner court materiality with iron spot brick and black clad windows. So we're showing here the area and then zoomed in with our building revealed behind the tree. The next sheet illustrates a tree removed and then a montage showing the rear of the building through the slot with nothing there. From the front of the building, our south view, shows alignment and relationships with the neighboring cornices, as well as the horizontal datum developed on the block front. Our materiality is consistent with the deep red brick and limestone facades. From the north, the slope mansard references the Lowell Palmer Carriage House. Our north light windows set to the roof line simplify the facade in deference to our neighbor with the protruding pedimental dormers. The primary facade features our wooden entry portico at the first floor, framed with limestone, iron spot brick at the second, and a slope mansard with north light at the third floor. We are proposing copper flashing at the north light, horizontal concealed gutter at the cornice, and cap at the mansard. Note the setback fourth floor is not visible from the street, directly from the front. The efforts to reduce heights, push back railings, and utilize mansard slope contribute beneficially to the street front, and impact is only minimally visible across secondary facades. Some of our detailing is developed, shown for reference in setback and materials. We have worked closely with the community on the block to refine this project and are not proposing any deep excavation. The floor plans have the first floor slab on grade for reduced impact. The ground floor features a double height living space, a bike room with a family room and library on the second floor. The third floor has bedrooms behind the sloped mansard facade. The fourth floor is our primary suite set back from the street with a deck behind the parapet of the mansard. The roof has a setback roof fence and mechanical units shielded by the stair bulkhead. In an effort to reduce heights, our stair bulkhead here in section is only 7-foot headroom. Our materials include painted wood, limestone, and iron spot brick at the front and rear facades, standing seam metal, neo slate at the mansard, and black aluminum clad windows. Copper flashing is minimally used at the front. And our windows. This concludes my presentation. If we can go back to 27, I can take questions.
All right, commissioners, do we have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
I have an architectural one. And if you go to page 10, it's just purely architectural and facade. It has to do with the rear facade. Page 10, I think it is.
Go to the rear facade.
Yes,
Yeah, page 10, yeah.
it's page 10.
So slide 10. It's an interesting architectural question where you use the iron spot, the red iron spots. On the front facade, you have it clearly defined where it is. In the rear facade, you increase the height of it, but on the mansard roof area. I'm curious, the thinking of the rear facade versus the front.
So the rear facade is a much more modern. It is a 2-story living height space. We wanted to delineate this as all one space.
Got it.
And we continued the material here from the front to the rear. The side is a common brick. At some point that will be built.
Okay, got it.
And we just felt we needed to both elevate this and keep some continuity between the two facades.
The double spacing.
This is a double height living room space, yes.
All right, other questions? All right, we'll move to public testimony and then we'll come back to you. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to speak on this item? Not seeing anyone, I will turn it over to Gregory Kala to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have a few hands raised in our attendees list. And the first we'll be hearing from is Pam Fleming. Pam Fleming, I am promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. You hearing me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Pam Fleming, the owner of 237 Waverly Avenue, directly next to the proposed building at 229 Waverly, and most impacted by this building. Even though there have been some improvements to the original design, which was denied, I still feel that a 4-story building with an added 7 to 8 foot bulkhead shaft on top of that is still too tall for our landmark carriage house block. Maybe it's not seen exactly from directly in front of the building, but many of my neighbors see it from every other direction and it towers over everything else on the block. Most carriage houses are 2 to 3 stories. This building will set a precedent for future buildings next to it on the north side of Waverly Avenue, where several lots are already in contract to be sold. Besides towering over my landmark carriage house, this extra story blocks the light for many homes on Washington Avenue and their backyards, which grow necessary trees and plants which host hundreds of species of wildlife. I suggest keeping it at 3 stories to keep it in scale with the rest of our historic character of our unusual carriage house avenue. That's point 1. And also our chimneys obviously will have to be raised up to code with the new height next to us. And the proposed metal flue extension idea is just not visually appropriate. I know they're addressing it, and it should be kept in a historical context with the rest of my building. Also, my apartment's lot line window, which has been there for at least 50 years and could possibly have been grandfathered in. I'm not sure where to check on that. It would be blocked completely, stopping light and ventilation in the living room and kitchen area of the apartment. There are only windows in the back of the building and none possible in the front. So losing this window is an extreme hardship to this apartment. I realize I may have no rights here, but I'm wondering if there's any creative solution the architect can come up with to allow for some light and ventilation where the window is now. I thank you, Commissioners, for considering my proposals, and thank you, John, for working with us to help make it a better building. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And next up, we'll be hearing from Rosaria Sinisi. Rosaria Sinisi, I am promoting you to panelist right now. And once you're a panelist, please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Rosaria Sinisi, representing Citizens for Responsible Neighborhood Planning of Clinton Hill and Fort Greene. We've reviewed this proposal, which has undergone significant modifications since its first presentation to the Land Use Committee of Brooklyn's Community Board 2. We appreciate the applicant's willingness to discuss it with concerned community members. However, the current proposal includes some features not previously presented, which we believe can be improved by additional modifications. First, the modifications proposed to the adjacent building's chimneys at 237 Waverly, which Mr. Field just amended verbally, present an intrusive and non-contextual element that will be in full view of the public, whether it's 2 or 4 chimneys, on the thoroughfare south of the new building along Waverly. The diagonal configuration appears industrial rather than residential, and we believe there must be a better way to resolve the need to raise those adjacent chimneys, whether it's 2 or 4. We've encountered this issue previously where owners have added a 4th floor to local buildings. And at least our impression was that it was a 3-foot mandated extension relative to a 10-foot radius around the point of the chimney itself. We're not expert at this, but they really think there has to be a better way to address this. We recommend that the applicant and the LPC address this issue prior to approval of the project because it would be extremely visible along Waverly from the public thoroughfare to the south. Second, the applicant in prior meetings discussed a gas fireplace in the new building, presumably represented by the unlabeled bulge on the north wall of the family room. We don't know what type of gas fireplace this may be. However, direct vent gas fireplaces must be vented either directly out a wall or upward through a chimney. Wall venting here is not possible as the wall in question is a party wall for a potential new build to the north. But if this fireplace needs to vent to the roof, then it would be visible from the public thoroughfare on Waverly to the north and should be presented in the plans with design and materials specified. In terms of finishing and design of the rear facade windows and front facade edges, some of the drawings of the front facade seem to show coins on both vertical edges and some do not. The inclusion of coins on both front vertical edges provides an additional element of finish and contextuality to the front facade, and we recommend approval of that. The rear facade is quite visible from the public thoroughfare of Willoughby Avenue around the corner. Without lintels and windowsills, this view provides a more intrusive addition to what's otherwise a historic view shed, and we would prefer to see lintels and sills on those windows and possibly a slight redesign to make the windows themselves less modern in appearance. We're also concerned with the length and materials of the second floor cornice. In prior drafts, this cornice and the area above it was shorter and there was copper colored. It's now been lengthened somewhat, but not to the full width of the building, and appears to be masonry, but there's copper indicated above the surface of the cornice and actually on the flat.
Rosaria,
Yes,
Rosaria, I'm terribly sorry. Your 3 minutes have passed. Could you please sum up your testimony?
yes, we're just concerned about the copper leaching potentially into the masonry below and hope that they can work with staff to make sure that does not happen. Thank you for your attention to these matters.
Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. And next up, we'll be hearing from John Graham from the Victorian Society in New York. John Graham, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. Okay. And once you're a panelist, please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. The Victorian Society supports the applicant's proposal to construct a new building designed to resemble historic carriage houses at 229 Waverly Avenue. We believe that the building's overall massing, the symmetrical street facade, the proposed combination of limestone, brick, gray synthetic slate, and copper flashing on the main facade, and the dark finish on the windows and doors are all in keeping with the district. The building will complement the historic carriage houses on Waverly without drawing undue attention from them. We'll also note that where the side and back facades of the building can be seen through gaps in the street wall, it will be minimally obtrusive. However, we question the use of single light windows on the visible north facade and recommend the use of 1/1 sash. Finally, we must note a problem we've mentioned before, that the use of CAD renderings can make it difficult to get a sense of the true color scheme and textures of a building. In this case, the front facade's brick, as shown on board 2, looks a medium brown gray with iron spots. The rendering on board 10 makes it look to be a strong red, no spots. The photo of the sample on 32 shows a long Roman-style medium red brick, no iron spots. This is a case where an actual brick sample would add a lot of information. We request that in the future, actual material samples are required and photographed for incorporation in the presentation. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from Ricky T. James. Ricky T. James, I am promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you. Hello, Ricky T. James. Are you with us? I have asked you to unmute your line.
Hello, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Carroll and commissioners. As a longtime resident of Clinton Hills, I approve of this type of site construction and conversation for former carriage houses and former slave homes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much for your testimony. And next up, we'll be hearing from Lucy Levine from the Historic Districts Council. Lucy Levine, I'm promoting you to panelist. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
My name is Lucy Levine. I'm speaking on behalf of the Historic Districts Council. HGC finds this proposal to be appropriate and very well done. We find this infill to be contextual yet modern, and we commend the applicants on their choice of materials, particularly their use of limestone, which we are glad to see in new construction. We believe this project sets a good precedent for future infill on this block. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 2 recommends conditional approval with the following comments and recommendations. Local residents expressed concern about the discrepancies between the stated measurements and the actual built measurements, specifically regarding the street widths and building height. The applicant committed to remeasuring all dimensions to ensure they reflect the design intent. Another neighbor thanked the applicant for their responsiveness and engagement following the February 21st meeting. This was one of the board's stated conditions. And finally, the committee recommends that the applicant confirm and or correct the dimensions in question prior to the LPC hearing, refine the limestone cornice to distinguish it from the first floor facade, elongate the copper cornice above the second floor, and refine the bank of 8 windows on the mansard roof to be less conspicuous. And we also received a letter from the Society for Clinton Hill that was shared with the commissioners beforehand. And with that, I will bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to the comments we've heard?
I will. I'll respond first, Community Board 2's comments about revising heights and consistency in the presentation. That has been something that I've worked through with staff prior to this presentation. Mr. Graham brought up the question of brick and the difficulty of CAD presentation and renderings and reality. I have some brick samples here on the table. It's almost the Three Little Bears because nothing's quite right. We have a Roman shaped brick, which is what we intend to use. We have a ruby red, deep red iron spot brick, which is the color we are looking for. You'll notice that it has a shiny face. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for something that is much more. This you'll see has shine, and I can pass this around. We're looking for something that is much less shiny. They have a velvet text that is supposedly not glazed. They have not yet given us. That's what we're looking for.
All right.
As for our direct abutter, Pamela, we will continue to work with them in revising the chimneys, and we'll work with staff to be able to minimize those. Given the age of the carriage house, we took a worst case scenario with solid fuel wood burning. The second, I can go to that image if we need to. Sorry. So the first chimney is no longer a topic. That's not an active fireplace. The second flue is an active gas, low temperature fireplace. This can go 3 feet above our structure. So somewhere in this position concealed by the rim, behind our sight line. The third flue is inactive. The fourth flue they would like to be able to use as wood burning. If that remains wood burning, that will go to the 10 feet above as high temperature. Our flues go to the 3 feet above our stair bulkhead here in the back. We collected them all in the back.
Okay, so the second flue will go up straight up 3 feet above.
The second flue will go straight up 3 feet or wherever we redesign this handrail to keep it below our sight line. And
Okay.
it might have to angle back ever so slightly.
Okay, so it's really the single flue, the last flue
It's
that,
really the last flue, which we would not do in a shiny stainless steel. These are proposed as a dark gray metal with our flues where we will collect them and run them together. We could run this one at a lower angle and then come up.
if you ran it at a lower angle, the angle could be against the backdrop of the side facade, and then you would just have the vertical
Correct.
silhouette. Okay.
Correct. And we could even paint it the color of the common sidewall brick.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, any final questions? Yes, Commissioner Lutfi.
Is there a curb cut in the front or no? I can't tell because the
There-
existing condition has one, but then it looks like you have a street here. Not a street, a curb that is not low. And I know the design sort of makes it look a little bit like a garage door, but theoretically, I guess it's a bike room. I'm just wondering.
So the wondering is interesting. This is a complicated zoning, R6B, where lots of a certain width are not permitted to have garages.
Okay,
There is an existing historic curb cut. It's there. We hope not to change it. We hope that DOT will not make us remove it
mm-hmm,
because it's historic material. But we do have to file a bill of BPP and DOT may not permit it
mm-hmm.
because of the zoning. That's a separate challenge. So the answer is yes, the intent is to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
That is a bike room. The importance in this design is to recall that carriage house front, which is why we recessed this whole entrance portico, kept it the black painted.
But if you could keep the curb cut, could you actually fit a car in the bike room?
Yes,
Okay,
they make small cars, but not, but legally, we can't drive, we
Yeah.
can't drive over the sidewalk in our 6B zoning.
right, got it.
I mean, I'll note that our 6B allows for a much larger building too, excavation and all kinds of stuff that really isn't appropriate for the block.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other questions? All right, let's begin our discussion. Commissioner Chen, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you second that
Second.
motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so the hearing is closed and we're looking at this new building on Waverly Avenue. And as the applicant has shown, Waverly Avenue is characterized by a lot of carriage houses that served the buildings or were connected to the buildings behind on the major streets. And this new proposal is a design that follows the carriage house typology and has a setback fourth floor, which is viewable from the north looking at the side lot line. And otherwise we've discussed the brick and the limestone and the mansard roof, and I think the design of the rear facade. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Chu, would you like to start this one?
Sure. I think overall, I think that from the street side, the profile and keeping the characteristic of the carriage entry as well as the slope roof, really, those two moves do a lot for you. Because it really, to me, it looks like you're trying to integrate it to the fabric of the existing houses. It doesn't stand out that much. And I say that in a positive way. I think it feels like it belongs on the street. I was a little concerned about the height. And so I was looking at slide 26, which shows the side view. And I think you mentioned that that was going to be a brick party wall. It shows it as a different kind of brick than the face brick. So I just want to make sure with staff that you're working on what type of brick is that? Is it matching the front face?
I think it's the front and the back are the Roman
The Roman.
brick, iron spot brick,
Roman.
and the side lot line is a common brick.
Okay. Yeah, I think that the final determination of the brick will need to be looked at with staff because I think what's being rendered isn't quite what you described. This looks more like a blended mix that's in the rendering. And because your design essentially frames it like it's a picture frame, it's going to bring more attention to itself. So I think we're going to make sure that that's looked at carefully, that it feels right. I was saying about the height. When I look at the side party wall view, it doesn't appear that the upper portion is that much more of a mass, and that was what I was concerned about because it's really the top of the neighboring building that you set is the datum, and it seems like for the most part it respects that. The rear facade, I don't have a lot of comment. I think that for the most part, it is not visible as was represented. Personally, I feel like the two bottom floors feel a little out of scale in terms of the big window, but we've seen other proposals as such. I'm not going to disprove it due to that. But otherwise, I think it's an appropriate proposal. I don't really have any major issues.
Okay. Commissioner Jefferson.
It's a wonderful proposal. The way I see it, it's two buildings, right? There's a front volume, there's a back volume, and the front volume datums line up with the existing buildings on the block beautifully, and the angles, the shift in the mansard roof kind of gives it a bit of distinction, but yet friendliness with the other buildings. So it fits in very nicely. The materiality, the limestone, everybody loves limestone. The rear facade is the rear volume, as I call it, from where there's a piece sticking up. It's slightly different in that it's modern in disposition, but the proportions of it are odd because of the spatial, what they're trying to do on the inside. But it's appropriate, and when I saw it, I thought, what a charming little building this was, and it works well for me.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg.
Appropriate.
Okay, Commissioner Chen.
Yeah, I think I only wish that the front facade, the neighborings step up on the party wall side, or that can be carried over on the front on this side. Obviously, you just have a slope down here, but somehow looking at it, that corner looks like it's would have been nice to carry it over. But to Commissioner Chu's point is, the side common red brick, that I will see what they can do with the staff side. I think, I guess it's because the double height space in the back forces everything up. So as a result, the window got pushed up on the side, and so. But overall, I can find it appropriate.
Yeah, and I think with that setback, because the top of the mansard, I think is like parapet height, right? So it makes the apparent height of the setback lower because you're only seeing half of a floor up or half of it. Commissioner Lutfi, which I think from the long view looking south helps it to just sort of blend in as a mass and not stand out. Sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Lutfi.
I think this is a good project. I know the street very well. And contextually, I think it really does fit in a very understated way. I appreciate that there's a lot of finesse in here in the front, just some accents that I think help further tie it together to what is around it, but without, making, but actually being understated, which I like. The color in the front's very interesting. I do also believe that it makes sense to be working with staff on what the brick on the side is going to be color wise so that it integrates a little better with the front. The back is a whole different thing. I feel like there's and it just might be me, but I feel like could be a little more definition here in the back. It seems, the rendering seems a little, not as refined. So I would recommend working with the staff on the details here, although I do like the brick patterns in the back. And, it's going to get a lot of nice light. Good luck with the curb cut.
Okay. Yeah.
One comment, and it's related to Commissioner Chen's comment. I think he's right. Part of it may be just the rendering, because it's a rendering. But when you look at the front elevation as you depicted in the very beginning, I'm looking at these two, the bookends, which, all of these houses have these bookends, and then the roofs, pitch roofs are set down into them, revealing the party wall a bit. And that's a very consistent language. You have it as well, but I can't understand your detail. it looks like it just could have been a flashing detail, but I think that if that's articulated in a way that's more intentional and separate from the tiles that are on the flap, then I think you may be able to bring a little more definition, and then the side view that Commissioner Chen mentioned won't feel so, it feels a little naked, like it's missing something. So if you could work with staff on refining that sloped parapet detail, because you also need a waterproofing condition of the tile
Right.
into that vertical. It's a complicated detail, and it will want a little more dimension there. I think it could help you. It looks neither here nor there right now, and maybe it just needs to.
Okay, great. So I think we have a consensus to support it with the condition that they continue to refine the parapet detail on the party walls as they intersect with the mansard. And that will help address the sort of integrating the setback a little bit more, and the final review and approval of material samples in the field and the flues. We'll continue to work with them on the flues. So it does sound like the sloped piece could be pulled down and wouldn't be silhouetted against the sky, and we would just have the vertical 3-foot piece at the front and the taller 10-foot piece at the back. So the modifications will be to work with the staff on refining the parapet on the party walls to integrate the setback, and to finalize the chimney flue configuration, and 3, that the materials are subject to review and approval by the staff. Do you have that, Stephen?
Yes.
Okay.
Looking at me. Okay, in the case of LPC 2406-569, 229 Waverly Avenue, Clinton Hill Historic District. Its application is to construct a new building on a vacant lot. I recommend approval, finding that the construction of a new building at this vacant lot will not eliminate any significant historic features of the site, that the proposed building will be modeled on neighboring historic carriage houses in terms of its basic massing proportion, use of punched openings, and composition of facade elements, thereby supporting the unity of the streetscape. That the proposed front facade of the building will align with the front facades of the neighboring buildings, supporting a uniform street wall. That the brick and limestone cladding, copper trim, and black painted wood infill at the facades will be in keeping with the materials and finishes at the neighboring carriage houses. That the synthetic slate roof will recall historic slate roofing in terms of finish, dimension, and pattern. That the banded skylight windows at the mansard roof will recall historic dormers and will be well integrated into the design. That the juxtaposition of the front facade materials, patterning of the masonry joints, and profiles and details of the infill cornices and band cores will help provide a level of articulation typical of buildings within the streetscape and historic district, while also subtly distinguishing it as a modern building. That the rear and side facades will be simply designed and will feature typical solid to void ratios and fenestration patterns, which harmonize with the secondary facades of the neighboring buildings. That the rooftop bulkhead will be simply designed typical in terms of materials and finishes, and will only be seen through the public thoroughfares at a distance over secondary facades. That the applicant will work with staff on the final configurations as mentioned for the visible metal flues, rerouting them to reduce visibility from the street level. That the depth. Right, and refining the parapet conditions on either end at the lot line and distinguishing them and working with staff on the detailing of the parapet to the brick party wall facade and to the tiled roof waterproofing detail. And also that the final determination of brick choice on the front facade will be looked at with staffing in terms of color, tone, and iron spotting. Let's see, that the depth of the proposed building and its projection into the central green space will be consistent with other buildings within the block. That's it.
Commissioner Jefferson, would you second that motion?
So second.
Thank you. John, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg. Aye. Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
6 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item is public hearing item number 6, LPC 24-05234. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, block 255, lot 25, 99 Clinton Street, AKA 152 to 156 Remsen Street in the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. This is a Gothic Revival style church building built in 1850 and converted to residential use in 1979. The application is to install skylights.
Hey, Commissioners, the applicant has entered the hearing and will be presenting remotely. Sabina, you now have control of the presentation. You just need to click on your screen. And then you can advance the slides using your arrow keys or your mouse. Please state your name for the record and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Sabina Hemminger. I'm not sure how to find the drawings.
You need to advance the slides using your arrow keys on your, there you go.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Sabina Hemminger with Waverly Kovachev Architects, and we are representing two families present today who are owning and residing in apartment 9 and 10 on the top floor of 99 Clinton Street in Brooklyn Heights. We wish to ask the Landmarks Commission to approve our application to install new skylights on the front and the rear asphalt shingle roofs of our 3-story co-op building, which was adapted for reuse in 1979 from the former Spencer Memorial Presbyterian Church, built around 1900 and attributed to the architect Menard Lefebvre. On this floor plan of the two apartments of my clients, you can see the current layout of both apartments, showing 8 proposed skylights on the main roof in light green dashed lines. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, as well as 7 smaller and not so impactful proposed skylights on the attic roof. Here, not these ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Adding to the 21 already existing skylights installed in 1995. These are all the existing skylights along here and here. The rooms along the roof lines, these are the rooms, currently only have indirect light via glass doors to the apartment interior. These are the glass doors. My clients wish to install new skylights in these rooms to add daylight and the ability to vent. The before and after proposed photos show you the location of our proposed visible skylights along Clinton Street. On the proposed photo image, let's call it an image, you can see that the skylights would be in line with the rhythm of the large Gothic windows below. So we have 5 Gothic windows, and in that same exact line, we would like to place the proposed skylights. Also, the skylight location on the roof would be between the upper and the lower snow guards, which would let us keep both of those snow guards in place. This slide shows our existing building from 3 sides. Here is looking up Clinton Street from Geralman Street. This is the corner of Remsen and Clinton Streets. And when looking at the building from the corner of Remsen and Spencer Mews, you can see a few of the existing skylights which were installed back in 1995. And you can also see the existing fire balconies, which are not original elements. When placing the proposed skylights along the Clinton Street facade, we were inspired by the design and, most importantly, the function of the skylights of the First Unitarian Congregational Society, which is located on the corner of Monroe Place and Pierpont Street. This church was also built by Menard Lefebvre, and we believe that the skylights are part of the original design. In this 3-aisled church with a simple pitched roof, sort of similar to our roof, the roof windows inside are illuminated through the 5 skylights that you can see here, visible from the exterior. In other words, the skylights at that church play a very functional purpose in the design of the church's interior, something we are also looking to do. Here you can see the skylights and how they light up the top windows inside the church interior. This slide is for context. There are several other examples very close to our building. This historic photograph of Packer Collegiate Institute, by the way, also attributed to Menard Lefebvre, shows original dormers as well as skylights. Of course, we all know the Brooklyn Heights Casino, where skylights are part of the original design. This photo shows Chase Bank on the corner of Montague and Clinton Street, and it features brand new landmarks approved skylights on the roof, installed to light up and air the new condo spaces built on top of the bank. You can see these from the street, from Montague Street, and this is just for better understanding the roof, the view up down the roof. This is the proposed roof plan showing the 21 existing skylights in gray. Here, these are the 21 existing skylights. And in bright green, these are our proposed skylights. Bright green showing that they are fully or partially visible from the street. So we have 5 visible from Clinton Street. This little one is visible from Clinton Street, this one as well, and those 2 are visible from Remsen Street looking into Spencer Mews. Those gray shaded skylights are existing, and we wish to replace them with operable skylights, and those purple ones are proposed but not visible. This is the west facade, or our main facade, where the 5 skylights are visible. And in this section, you can see these are the rooms along the roof line that currently do not have any direct light. Only there are little doors with glass that bring through the skylights that bring light into the space, but we cannot also air the space very well. This facade is towards Spencer Mews, where some of the existing skylights are visible and the proposed ones are not visible from Remsen Street, the public street. These slides are 3D images of showing our proposed skylights from different viewpoints as you come closer to the building. Here again, 3D images of the proposed skylights where they are visible. This is Spencer Mews. This is the corner of Clinton and Ramsden where you can see the 5 skylights. This slide shows the architectural detail of our proposed skylights. We chose a type with one of the lowest profiles available on the market. This particular model by Velux only protrudes 3 inches off the existing roof on the bottom and the 2 sides. So on the 2 sides and the bottom, it would protrude 3 inches, and along the top, it's 3 5/8 inches. The overall outline of our main 5 skylights along Clinton Street have a width of 52 3/4 by 55 inches. To install the skylights, we will remove the existing asphalt shingles, which are shown here. And we use the same shingles when finishing the installation. This last slide shows an image of the Velux window we are proposing, as well as the way they will be installed, which is deck mounted and seamless. The frame color of the proposed skylights is neutral gray. This is the color. And they are similar to the gray tone of the asphalt shingles. For comparison, these are the existing skylights, and they stick out 7 inches off the roof compared to our 3 inches. Here, just the last image to show you once more the 5 main skylights that we are proposing, and this is the end of my presentation.
Right. Thank you very much. Do we have questions on this one, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
LPC-8, the facades that are in detail 2, elevation 2, some of them are vertical, some of them are horizontal. Why is that?
May I please repeat your question? Or are you saying the proposed, some are vertical, some are horizontal?
If you look at the purple, the
purple,
So go to,
I will go back
yeah,
to
you can go to
the
slide,
horizontal.
wait, hang on a second. Can you just go to slide 8 so that we are all looking at, so this is the less visible side of the church, right? So
It would be this one?
one more, yes. And the green skylights are existing.
Yes.
The 3 purple ones are new, but will not be visible from a public way. And then the
these 3
gray
are
ones
existing.
to be replaced,
Yes.
but they're existing openings. And I think that the layout of the skylights have to do with the floor plans inside, right?
As well as the fact
And-
that we would like to see, I put a little center line here so that we can place these in the center line of the tall windows. So we have a rhythm. It also does have to do with the floor plan because there are interior walls, structural elements. That is another reason why we're placing them here. And I'm not sure I answered the question fully.
I think you did.
Okay. So, and maybe actually, if you go to slide 9, there's a little site plan that I think will help you to show how, can you go to slide 9?
No.
Okay, so, whoops, no,
not
slide 9.
This one?
Yes. So do you see the site plan, Commissioner Jefferson? So those skylights that you were just asking about are on the side of the building that faces another building on Remsen Street. So I think there's a number 7 pointing to that view. So right in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would like to also add that this building that I'm outlining with my mouse right now, it is a proposed, I would call it skyscraper. It's the former St. Francis College, and this is not part of the Brooklyn Heights landmark district. So I think you've seen proposals of this site, but just not this building because it's outside of the district. But this will be a very tall building. So I'm not sure how much will be actually visible once this building is in place.
All right, thank you. Okay, any other questions? All right, and I'll note that there's no one in the hearing room to speak on this item, so I'll ask Gregory Kalla to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. We have one hand raised currently in our attendees list, that being Judy Stanton from the Brooklyn Heights Association. Judy Stanton, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Judy Stanton speaking for the Brooklyn Heights Association, and we support this proposal as presented. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from John Graham from the Victorian Society in New York. John Graham, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. The Victorian Society is happy to support this proposal to install skylights on the west-facing roof of the former Spencer Memorial Presbyterian Church. We encourage such unobtrusive solutions in support of new uses for former religious properties. The applicant's decision to align the new skylights with the historic window openings on the west wall directly below will maintain the rhythm of this facade. We appreciate seeing the sections through the proposed Velux skylights on board LPC 11, which document their minimal and unobtrusive projection above the roof. We also commend the applicant for providing clear documentation about the existing skylights at this former church and at other churches and institutional buildings in Brooklyn Heights. However, we couldn't find any actual note on the elevation drawing, LPC 07, stating new skylights to align with the center lines of windows below. This should be added to the final documents as reviewed by staff. Finally, these drawings show additional skylights to be added to the east and south facing roofs. As these are essentially invisible from any public way and will not require removal of significant historic material, we are not commenting on them. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next up, we'll be hearing from, Judy Stanton has her, we already heard from Judy Stanton. So without any additional hands raised, I will note that Brooklyn Community Board 2 recommends approval. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'd like to ask the applicants if there's any final comment they'd like to make before we move to our discussion. I think the testimony was largely supportive, acknowledging the relationship of the skylights to the center line of the windows and just wanting that to be noted on the drawings. You did already note that for the record in your presentation. Is there any final comment you'd like to make?
I have no further comments on my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any final questions? All right, so let's close the hearing. Commissioner Chu, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Jefferson. Would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the hearing is closed and we'll begin our discussion on the installation of new skylights on the roof of this church. This church is actually for us, a fairly early adaptive reuse. It was undertaken in 1995. And we have often been supportive of changes to allow for a new use, particularly in former religious structures. And so the proposal, there is no slate roof. This is an asphalt roof, and it's to install the 5 skylights on Clinton Street that are visible, 2 on the either side of the front-facing gable on Clinton Street that are partially visible, and then 2 that'll be visible through the alley on Remsen Street. And Commissioner Ginsburg, would you like to start this one?
Yeah, I think this is pretty simple. I think this is appropriate and fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Chen?
I'm in agreement. I think the align with the windows below and the symmetrical and being that there's a building in the back, they'll be blocking most of the rear window, the rear skylights. I think this is appropriate.
All right, Commissioner Lutfi?
Yes. I agree. I think it's appropriate. These, conversions into residential homes, are difficult, and getting light in them is important. I think they've done a very good job.
Commissioner Chu?
Agreed, appropriate.
Commissioner Jefferson?
To me, it sets up a new sense of order to the facade, and therefore even more appropriate.
Yeah, actually, to your point, these actually have more of a logic than some of the earlier ones. And Commissioner Goldblum?
I agree.
Okay, all right, so I think we can go ahead and make that motion. Commissioner Ginsburg?
With regard to LPC 24-05234, 99 Clinton Street, AKA 152-156 Remsen Street, Brooklyn Heights Historic District, a Gothic revival style church built in the 1850s and converted to residential in 1979. Application is to install skylights. I know that the building style, scale, material, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the installation of skylights at the slope roof covered with asphalt shingles will not eliminate or damage any significant features, that the skylights were sometimes historically found on slope roofs of churches, buildings of this age and style, and have been frequently added to church buildings being adapted, reused for new purposes. That the proposed skylight will be simply designed, neutral in finish, and that the proposed skylights at the visible west-facing roof slope will be set in a simple uniform pattern aligning with the windows at the west facade, helping them to remain a subordinate and harmonious presence, and that the proposed work will not detract from the significant architectural features of the building and historic district.
Thank you. And Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion?
Second.
John?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
7 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
All right, that's approved. Thank you. We'll move to the next and final item.
Last item of the day is public hearing item number 7, LPC 24-11992. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 236, Lot 134, 150 Henry Street in the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. This is a Greek revival style house built in 1830. The application is to modify the sloped roof to create a roof terrace.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff. My name is Maggie Hummel. I'm an architect with Ingui Architecture. I'm here to propose the renovation work at 150 Henry Street between Love Lane and Clark Street. If we can go to the first slide, please.
You can click on the screen.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. This is a townhouse built in 1830 in the style of Greek Revival. It's an existing two-family. It will remain a two-family. I will present to you the work that is only of concern to the board, which focuses on the roof work. We have an existing attic level at the top floor that is fully enclosed. You will see a rendering in the top left corner of the proposed work at the attic level. We are proposing to remove a 300 square foot area of roof at the rear of the building and translate that interior space into an exterior terrace to be accessed from what will become a penthouse level at the top floor of the building. The top left shows a rendering of that cutout, as well as 3 proposed skylights at the roof level that are taking the place of 2 existing roofers' skylights. The photo at the center is taken from Love Lane and is the point of greatest visibility of the rear roof of 150 Henry. When zoomed in, you can see the existing conditions and the existing skylights. There is we did as much of a mock-up as we could to indicate the area cutout and overlaid a rendering on top of that image. The image indicates new exposed brick along the party wall, the north party wall of 150 Henry, as well as the new proposed glazing at the new penthouse wall on the top floor. Also shown are low profile skylights at the main roof level. In plan, we can see existing and proposed side by side. This is the 4th floor level, the area of roof removal that then becomes exterior deck space. The 3 windows at the upper facade are meant to remain in place, and we will talk more in detail on that when we look at this section. Existing and proposed roof plan showing the removal of the skylights and replacement with 3 new skylights. We are proposing an exterior awning that is mounted to the roof, slightly visible in the rendering image we saw previously, meant to be finished in the same light gray color as the roofing to blend as much as possible. This is a metal housing that the awning itself retracts into and can be finished to our specifications. We have a partial rear facade elevation existing on the left, proposed on the right. Again, showing the rear cornice line and the rear windows remaining. No modification to the existing masonry openings. The elevation at the bottom right of the page is the new penthouse wall elevation that will be beyond the rear wall of the building currently. The material finishes are indicated on this page. We intend to use a non-metallic neutral gray finish on the new penthouse wall and follow the same finish on the new windows on this level in a vertical metal siding pattern. In section, we can see the existing section at the top proposed at the lower half of the page with the existing brick wall exposed. On this side, the neighboring flue is shown in this view, which does not require any modifications. It is raised to a sufficient level currently. We can see the existing rear facade in this view. We have 3 short awning windows at the top level that will remain in place. But rather than giving a view from Love Lane into the proposed deck space, we are proposing to create blind windows, leave the existing windows in place, and create a solid backing at the interior face of that wall. Painted a medium gray color as indicated in the top left, which is a photo of where we applied a similar approach to the rear parlor window on this example project, also in a historic district, Park Slope, Brooklyn. The photo on the right indicates that we plan to retain the existing slightly corbelled brick cornice at the rear facade to relate to our sister house at 152 Henry Street. We have a precedent study that shows other modifications in the historic district, and we welcome any questions.
All right, thank you very much, commissioners. Do we have questions on this proposal? All right, and I'll note that there's no one in the room to speak on this item, but I'll turn it over to Gregory to see if we have any remote participants.
Thank you, Chair Carroll. The first attendant we'll be hearing from is Judy Stanton from the Brooklyn Heights Association. Judy Stanton, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. Please unmute your line and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Judy Stanton, speaking for the Brooklyn Heights Association. We support this application. To the extent feasible, we suggest preserving the edges of the original attic roof structure and the walls on either side. We believe that preserving these pieces of the historical building fabric is the right approach for this type of increasingly common roof modification. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I do not see any additional hands raised, so I will note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 2 recommends approval. And with that, I'll bring it back to you, Chair Carroll.
All right, thank you. So would you like to respond to the question by Brooklyn Heights Association?
Considered preserving some of the side structure of the roof on the other side. We are dealing with an already very constrained footprint on the exterior terrace. It ends up being less than 300 square feet in the end. We would like to maximize the amount of usable space to our homeowners, and we felt like we had substantial precedent in this particular historic district that supports a full width cutout. For that reason, we are still proposing the full width cutout. We appreciate your feedback.
Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners, any final questions? Okay, let's close the hearing. Commissioner Lutfi, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. And Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. And as we've heard, this is a proposal to cut out a portion of the roof at the back of the roof, keeping the windows in place with a film behind them. And as the applicant presented, this is an type of alteration we've seen frequently or sort of frequently in the last several years, and have approved it both as proposals come to us with keeping some of the roof, and we've also approved plenty with doing a full width cutout between the party walls. And so this would involve that along with the skylights. It's visible from Love Lane about a half a block away over the low building in front of it. But you only see the roof line. You don't see the building on which this roof is. So we'll begin the discussion. Commissioner Chen, would you like to do this one?
Yeah, I think as you can see from the illustration here is, it's hardly noticeable that if you're not paying attention, you barely notice the cutout. And I think the support of the community board, as well as I think it makes sense in this case. I can find that appropriate.
Yeah, and I think finishing the vertical surface in the gray will also help it read as part of the roof and not stand out. Commissioner Lutfi?
I agree. I think it's appropriate.
All right, Commissioner Chu?
Agreed. Very
Okay. Commissioner Jefferson?
Appropriate.
All right. Commissioner Goldblum and
I want to.
yes, Commissioner
First of
Ginsburg.
all, I appreciate that it's staying a two-family house.
Yes.
And I would just add that I think you don't need to do this. What you have is fine, but I think doing the blind windows, I think it'd be nicer if the windows were windows and when you were in the terrace, you could look through the windows. But again, that's doesn't really matter for what we're approving.
Okay, great. So I think we can approve it. Commissioner Chen, would you make the motion?
In a matter of LPC 24-11-992, 150 Henry Street, Brooklyn Heights Historic District, the application is to modify the slope roof to create a roof terrace. Noting that the building's style, scale, materials, and details among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the creation of a sunken roof terrace at the rear of a moderately sloped roof will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features. That the proposed work will only be visible from a distance from a limited stretch of sidewalk to the west on Love Lane and will be seen over a very limited portion of the rear facade. That the Arctic windows at the rear facade will be retained in the newly formed terrace parapet, thereby preserving the building's original fenestration pattern. That the installation of low-profile skylights and a retractable awning will blend into the roofscape of the building and neighboring rooftop installations. And that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the building or the Brooklyn Heights Historic District.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lutfi, would you second that motion? John, will you call?
Chair Carroll,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lutfi.
Aye.
7 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
All right, so that's approved. Thank you. And that concludes our hearing today. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see everybody next Tuesday, August 6th.